Guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and I just want to do a quick article update on the Rex Heuermann, Long Island serial killer suspect, allegedly, uh, as we do. And it looks like the police have finished up the search of the house, so we are pretty close to getting, I hope, updated information about what they found. I mean, pertinent to the case being, not screwed up and all that thing. But let's see what the internet knows because the internet is where we get all of our stuff. This is from the Intelligencer. I'm trying to go with a less mainstream media kind of things, maybe smaller, news areas or things. I'm still looking for information on the Arizona property and the South Carolina property. I know you're going to be shocked, y'all, but with 6 children out on summer break and, um, dealing with the Darren Rubin case, it it has been a little bit busy. So, we will just start off with this, and it says, "A huge cache of weapons found." Cache or cache? It depends. Found in Herman's home, live updates. The Gilgo Beach murder case has haunted Long Island for more than a decade, seems to have finally been solved. On July 14th, a 59-year-old local architect, Rex Heuermann, was arrested and charged with murdering 3 women whose bodies were discovered in 2010 near Gilgo Beach along Long Island's South Shore. Heuermann, who lived in nearby Massapequa Park and ran his own firm in Midtown Manhattan, is also the prime suspect in the murder of a 4th woman whose body was found near the other victims. He's pleaded not guilty to the charges. Below is what we know about the suspect, the case against him, and all the updates on this still developing story. I like to kind of head back to media, every couple days and just see what's the latest because it seems like we keep getting little breadcrumbs here and there, and again, I know it's for the media, I understand that this is how things work, but, I find it very interesting that the same police that are like, "Look, we are keeping a very tight lid. This is a tight lid. This is an under the cuff kinda thing." Um, then they go to talk to, all these media outlets. I understand the need for it, but I do like that, we are finding little details here and there about it. So I keep checking back and forth since I have been kind of spearheading this on my channel at least. I am the CEO of my own channel, if you did not know. Well, okay, let's be very honest. The cats and the children are really the dictators of my channel because their shenanigans are the ones that, do what they're gonna do. All right, Suffolk County DA details findings from the Heuermann's house. During a press conference Tuesday, and I will look for that, and we'll probably do a video about that here in possibly tonight. Uh, Tuesday afternoon, Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney confirmed that the search of Rex Heuermann's house has been completed for all intents and purposes, and that personnel will be leaving the property soon. Tierney described the house as cluttered and said that investigators retrieved a massive amount of evidence that needs to be analyzed, a process that could take a significant amount of time. Along with the items taken from the home were approximately 279 weapons. So I don't know if that could be the 92, I believe, permitted firearms that he had, plus knives and other things. In England, a butter knife is considered a weapon, so we don't know. We are not quite sure what all these weapons are. So let's see. We don't know exactly what we have. We won't know exactly what we have for quite some time, just given the sheer volume of evidence that was taken. And honestly, I'm glad that he's saying this, you guys, because what I have seen with listen, it's very rich coming from me as a creator who tends to, you know, is trying to become, well, semi-professional from doing true crime and case, kind of coverage. What I don't want them to do is to rush to the media to give, crime tubers, lay tubers, law tubers a bunch of information that hinders the case. Because regardless of anything, I want these families to get justice. So I'm glad that they're walking a fine line. I'm hoping and I will be, waiting for them to come out with more information as they see fit because really I'm wanting to see what all they have. I do believe that, again, in my heart in my estimation, this man is going to be probably one of the more prolific serial killers that we've seen, as not, a CSI behavior specialist or anything like that, but that's my guess. The search team made use of an excavator to dig through the house's backyard in search of evidence. Though a system sensed some objects underneath the dirt, Tierney said nothing of note was discovered in the yard. The question of whether any killings took place in Hierman's home remains unanswered. The evidence does not point either one way or the other, Tierney said on that point. Tierney also said that Hierman's DNA hasn't been entered into any of the national crime databases because he is yet to be convicted of a crime. Additional investigations are still ongoing into Hierman's ties in other states, including South Carolina and Nevada. So I will definitely be looking at local news there. If you guys find something and you would like to put it in the comments, or my email is available, I believe, on my community page, or however you do the internet magic you do. But definitely, if you guys find something, if you are local to the area and they have local news that they would like, I love local news. So it's a little bit cheesy, it's a little campy, but I love it. And you always get to know if Edith has like a new, rescue pet that she just wants to hold, and usually he's acting out. They always give the crazy ones to like the daytime hosts, and they're like, "Oh, look at this cute little animal. Oh, it's feral." Not to be confused with Feral Housewife. When asked about the South Carolina inquiry, Tierney gave no comment, saying it wasn't his jurisdiction, which is correct. District Attorney also confirmed that Hierman is due back on court in August 1st, which he expects to be, quote, a typical court conference, end quote, where discovery will be discussed. Investigators wrapping up the search of Hierman's home. WABC reports that the search of Rex Hierman's Massapequa home will likely be finished by the end of the week and couldn't finish up as early as Tuesday, which will mark the 12th day that investigators have combed through the house. Now, again, if it looks like the Darren Rubin house inside and y'all, you know, it's not like I watch Hoarders to feel better about myself because when you have 6 children, 5 cats, 1 husband, and myself, who is a chaotic neutral chaos demon, if you will, sometimes lawful, sometimes somewhat lawful, let's be very honest. Um, keeping a house clean to, June Cleaver levels can be difficult, but keeping it above, like, semi-hoarder levels is achievable. So, do I watch Hoarders to feel better about my house? Yes, I do. Although Mr. Mo is like, "That house those it gives me anxiety." I'm like, "Well, then you do not want to be on my playlist." Though examiners will be leaving the site, there will still be law enforcement presence in the area due to the home's new notoriety. Quote, "We are putting cameras on the block. We are going to have law enforcement out there, vehicle and traffic enforcement. We are going to make sure that we are not going to turn this into some kind of sideshow," end quote. Nassau County Commissioner Patrick Ryder told the media Monday. CBS New York is reporting that county officials will be placing no standing signs outside the Hierman property and will issue a $150 summons to drivers who loiter in the road to view the home. Loiter in the road to view the home. Now, I do believe that New York is low on their tax revenue because of the outflux of people. I mean, I think Long Island a little different, but have we thought about the market and tax opportunity? Turn it into a sideshow. Charge people $150 to go there. I'm just saying, maybe you'll get out of your tax debt. Far be it from me to tell New York how to New York, though. I could be wrong. It just seems like where there is a desire for something, there is, in fact, a market potential. Cops are digging up the backyard. New details emerge about a room built in the basement. Investigators began using police dogs, ground penetrating radar, and an excavator at the Hurmans Massapequa home on Sunday, the Associated Press reports. A yellow excavator that had been seen scooping dirt in the backyard Sunday was still at the house Monday morning. In Associated Press drone footage, a man could also be seen operating a piece of equipment that can be used to scan for buried objects. Over the weekend, police dismantled a wooden deck at the house. They yelled "lift" and brought it up in one piece, as if it was a cover, a neighbor, Barry Auslander, told the AP. The porch had been replaced by a white tent, with the medical examiner's truck parked nearby. Investigators with shovels could be seen scraping through a freshly upturned earth in the Hurman's yard. Suffolk Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison told News 12 Long Island that investigators did take several items from the Hurman's home over the course of their search of the premises. Though there is speculation that some or all of the murders may have taken place in the home, Harrison said he could not confirm if any of the victims had ever visited. The search of the Hurman's home still continues. Quote, "We are doing a total investigation around the house to see if there's anything out there that we need to take a closer look at," he said. The New York Post has reported that a room in the Hurman's basement may have been soundproofed, but speculated that it may be the same vault that police have said the alleged killer kept his enormous collection of firearms in. Lord, don't look at the soundproofing that Mr. Moe and I have bought for this house. We may or may not have audio asshats as neighbors who like to play Immigrant Song at 11 p.m. on a Thursday night because it just tickles them silly. But, as, not allegedly audio assholes ourselves, we would never. So we spent so much money when we redid the kids' room so that they could actually get good night's sleep on a weekday. Uh, and we soundproofed the ever-living snot out of their room, so I can only imagine if my search history ever goes viral. Let's be very honest, it's gonna be ugly if any of us, lay tuber, law tuber, crime tubers ever have our search histories checked. Okay. Excuse Griffin, he was yawning. Harrison supported this observation, saying no soundproof room was found. One of Hurman's former coworkers told the Post that the architect took time off to install the concrete lined room. It's not just a hidden room, it's a serious vault. It had a huge, heavy duty safe door. He went in and poured new concrete wall, massive amounts of concrete to encase this room, maybe 2 to 3 feet thick. I mean, come on, why didn't they use that? David Schaller, who was Amber Costello's roommate at the time of her 2010 disappearance, as well as a witness who provided the police with a description of the killer and his SUV, offered his side of the story to the Associated Press. The man they were looking for was a towering Frankenstein figure with an empty gaze who drove a first generation Chevrolet Avalanche. Schaller recalled telling investigators. The man's size stuck out, as did his unusual pickup truck, which he used to flee the house Schaller shared with Costello. On that night, Schaller said that he came home to find a stranger threatening Costello, an occasional Craigslist worker who had locked herself in the bathroom. The two men came to blows, with the hulking intruder eventually leaving in the truck. When they told me she was dead, he was the first person who jumped in my head, Shaler told the Associated Press. I have been picturing his face for 13 years. Shaler also shared his frustration over the fact that his testimony was somehow overlooked and filed away for years until the new task force re-examined the case. This is really having shades of the Delphi case in it, because the only real thing that put them on the rate or put uh, Richard Allen on the radar was the fact that he talked to police in, I want to say 2017, and told them that he had been on the trail that day and happened to own a Carhartt, jacket and knives, as I'm know you're going to be shocked, many people in Indiana do, rural Indiana. In fact, I believe that you could go to nearly every house, including my own, except for the Carhartt jacket, because I know Mr. Mo doesn't have one, but he does have plenty of blue and black sweat jackets and other sort of jackets, just not Carhartt, because I'm not paying $80 from daggone Carhartt, okay? Used to be fairly inexpensive, but now apparently it's cool or something. I don't y'all, I don't know. Okay. Schaller also shared his frustration over the fact that his testimony was somehow overlooked and filed away for years until the new task force re examined the case, and stressed that he had met with investigators multiple times. Speaking out for the first time since the arrest, he said he had met with homicide detectives on multiple occasions during the initial years of the investigation. During one of their final meetings, roughly 2 years after the women went missing, he said he picked the truck's model out of a lineup of photographs provided by the detectives. I gave them the exact description of the truck and dude, he said. I mean, come on, why didn't they use that? Gawkers are flocking to the Heerman house. The New York Times reports on Long Island's new macabre, I say macabre, but what can um, I may or may not be saying that wrong. Tourist attraction. Some bike over or walk the dog from nearby blocks, some trek from distant towns or other states. Once and near empty streets are lined with cars from sunup to sundown, parked by true crime addicts, serial killer aficionados, and some people obsessed with specifically the Gilgo Beach murders. It's a part of history, said Lydia Feldman, 26, who lives several towns away. Her 2-year-old daughter cheerfully rode her plastic toy car into the yellow crime scene tape. "It sends a chill down your spine," said Miss Fieldman. "Okay, look, y'all, if I was close, I would totally go. I wouldn't bring my 2-year-old with me, but as a mom with littles, I understand that there are sometimes you just cannot get away by yourself. The crimes are where Shrek, the killer himself, allegedly lived. Listen, you do you for your family, okay? I just probably wouldn't have done it because my mom would have called me up, "Is this or this not a picture of my grandbaby in front of a crime scene?" "Well, what had happened, grandma?" So, yeah, that's why I would not have done it. Police reportedly believe that at least one of the murders happened inside the home. News 12 Long Island reported Thursday that multiple sources, I love these multiple sources, had told the outlets that investigators believe one or more of the Gilgo Beach murders took place at the Massapequa home of suspect Rex Heuermann. Suffolk County DA Ray Tierney quickly pushed back on that speculation. At the time of the arrest, we indicated the causes of death were homicidal violence. The location of the murders were never specified. At this juncture, if any law enforcement officials are saying anything contrary to that, they do not know what they are talking about. Investigation extends to 4 states. So this is what I really wanted to get into. I will be looking at, trying to find more information, but it looks like there's a good bit of information, so I will be trying to use some of the local sources that this particular article indicates to try to find a little bit more of the local flavor and maybe get local news reports about the um, different sort of, potential areas that we might have had. Like I said, I am only a Mo on the internet, but I definitely feel like he is going to be a prolific serial killer, maybe on par with Israel Keys, or if you believe, him, oh gosh, if you believe certain other people, they could have a very high count. Authority or South Carolina Sorry. In addition to New York, authorities are looking into whether Heuermann might have committed crimes in at least 3 other states, though much of that work seems to be due diligence at this time. Suffolk County Police said Thursday that departments across the country are reviewing their unsolved murder cases to see if any might be linked to the alleged killer, whose DNA has been added to a national law enforcement database. In South Carolina have concluded searches at the South Carolina properties owned by Heuermann, according to WHNS, a local news affiliate. Fox News Digital captured video footage of a truck being towed from one. The vehicle is believed to be a Chevy Avalanche, the same model of truck that has been linked to the case. Heuermann's brother, Craig, reportedly also owns property nearby. The Chester County Sheriff's Office, whose jurisdiction covers the properties, confirmed in a statement that it had been enlisted by the task force investigating the Gilgo Beach murders to assist in gathering evidence in Chester County relevant to their investigation. The Chester County Sheriff Office has and will continue to work closely with the FBI and Suffolk County law enforcement officials during this very important and arduous investigation, it read. South Carolina police are also investigating whether Heuermann might have been involved, in the disappearance of an 18-year-old woman who went missing some 20 miles from the property linked to him. But local police officials stressed to ABC's News that so far there is no indication that leads us to identify Heuermann as a suspect in this case. Nevada. The Las Vegas Review-Journal reports that Heuermann owned a timeshare in Las Vegas. Well, it goes to show that even if you're a serial killer, you can be locked in to a terrible, horrible contract with a timeshare. So, it seems like they get to the best of us, normal and serial killer suspect alike. We are currently reviewing our unsolved cases to see if he has any involvement. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department said Tuesday, and New Jersey. Suffolk County Police say Thursday that authorities in Atlantic City are among those reviewing their case files in the aftermath of Heuermann's arrest. In 2006, bodies of 4 women who had been Craigslist workers were discovered in a roadside ditch in Egg Harbor Township. The still unsolved Black Horse Pike murders are believed to be the work of an as yet unidentified serial killer, but the police have not indicated any link to the alleged Gilgo Beach murders. Quote, there were some murders a couple years ago that were similar or something where it had to do with Craigslist workers. We had to take a closer look to see if it was similar to the Gilgo Beach murders, end quote, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison told ABC7 on Thursdays. Quote, what I am being told is that it is not a connection, but we want to revisit that investigation as well, end quote. The Atlantic City Prosecutor's Office said in a statement, our office continues to investigate the 2006 Black Horse Pike homicides as we do all unresolved matters, and we follow all leads. Since this remains an open investigation, we cannot comment further due to its potential to compromise the investigation. We have no comment on the Gilgo Beach investigation. Investigators originally overlooked key evidence. The New York Times has published an expanded account of how Suffolk County Police, armed with new technology and perspectives, finally identified the suspect killer, Rex Heuermann, more than a decade after the bodies of his alleged victims had been found. The report offers more details about how the police overlooked a critical piece of information. A witness description of the vehicle driven by a would-be client of victim Amber Costello shortly before she disappeared. The description of a vehicle in a driveway, a dark first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche, ended up tucked away in a case file, the authorities said. The fact apparently lay buried for years among hundreds of thousands of pages of interviews, telephone, travel, and credit records, and endless tips as the Suffolk County Police Department and District Attorney's Office endured years of turmoil. James Burke, the swaggering police chief who had been running the department since 2012, was arrested in 2015 and later convicted on federal civil rights and obstruction of justice charges. He had beaten a suspect who had been arrested after stealing cigars in a bag containing um, prawn, if you will, and adult toys from Mr. Burke's sport utility vehicle. I will be doing a separate video on that because, oh my god, that has all the cringelarity of, well, a Mo story. So I will definitely be, looking into that because how many times will you get to use prawn and oh gosh, you know, toys of an adult nature in a story and not get in trouble because you're dealing with actual factual news. The subsequent cover-up ensnared the district attorney at the time, Thomas J. Spota, who also landed in prison. The federal investigation into Suffolk County's top lawmen spanned years during the Gilgo Beach case, a period during which both Mr. Burke and Mr. Spota had spurned the help of the FBI. After Suffolk County's next police chief, Tim Sidney, redoubled the department's effort to solve the case, it was able to use cell phone data as well as more advanced technology and software to determine that many of the evening calls linked to the victims had come from somewhere inside an area of several hundred homes in Massapequa Park. Police called this area the Polygon and surmised that it was likely where the killer lived. Daytime cell phone data was also used to identify a second key area in Midtown Manhattan, which was likely where the killer worked. Years later, when a new task force was formed to re-examine the case in 2022, someone unearthed a description of the vehicle. Investigators then did a database search, which revealed that in the same year the last victim went missing, a dark first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche was linked to Heuermann, who, as it turned out, lived inside the Polygon, worked in Midtown Manhattan, and matched the physical description the witness had given the police of the would-be client who parked an Avalanche outside the Costello house. No one in no one the Times spoke to who had worked on the case knew how the vehicle description was overlooked. Quote, "If they knew about it then, a major mistake was made in not tracking this car down earlier," end quote, said Rob Trotta, a former Suffolk County detective and current county legislator, sorry, who says he expects to make an official inquiry as to what happened. Dominic Verone, former chief of detectives who oversaw the first year of the investigation, questioned whether the avalanche clue had actually been filed in the case file. Or had actually been in the case file, but added, quote, "I will feel very, very badly if our team missed something," end quote. Quote, "I'll tell you right now, no suspect vehicle was on our radar when I was still there," end quote, he added. The suspect's wife filed for divorce. You're shocked. Asa Ellerup, the longtime wife of Rex Heuermann, has filed for divorce according to court filings first reported by the Daily Beast. The divorce filing is listed as quote unquote uncontested. Not much is known about Ellerup beyond the fact that the 59-year-old seemed to have led a reclusive life with her two children, and that she was reportedly out of town when her husband was alleged to have murdered his victims. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison said on Wednesday that Ellerup was, quote, shocked and disgusted after learning the allegations against her husband. Quote, "When we told the wife, she was shocked. She was embarrassed," Harrison told Fox 5 New York. "But there was a point where we'd shown her certain pictures and she said, 'Okay, it is what it is,'" end quote. Ellerup's lawyers, Macedino and Duncan LLP, said in a statement on Friday that she and her family were, quote, "going through a devastating time in their lives," end quote, and that she was requesting privacy and will not be commenting on Heuermann's case. Please, guys, I hope everyone just leaves her and the kids alone. It's not their fault. I mean, I can't even imagine coming home from somewhere, living most of your life out of the public eye, and then being thrust into this because of terrible things that your husband did when you didn't know. Especially the fact that he was utilizing all the Craigslist workers in the world, apparently. Quote, "The sensitive nature of her husband's arrest is taking an emotional toll on the immediate and extended family, especially their elderly family members," end quote, the firm said. Heuermann's lawyers said his client is, quote, "traumatized by the arrest." Michael Brown, an attorney representing Rex Heuermann in the Gilgo Beach case, told ABC News that his client appeared, quote unquote, "traumatized" at his arraignment hearing where he entered a not guilty plea. Brown, who described Heuermann as soft-spoken, said the case will be difficult to try because of its high-profile nature, opining that his client has, quote, "been convicted in the media already," end quote. When you have a high-profile case like this, initially you have to be concerned about getting a jury that hasn't been biased, that hasn't convicted him based on what they've read in the newspaper and what they've heard on social media. So that's going to be a challenge, end quote, he told the outlet. Brown said that he's building his legal team for the proceedings and awaiting the discovery process. Women detail unsettling past with the alleged killer. Now, I am not saying that people could possibly be using this as sort of a feather in their hat to get the 15 minutes of fame. What I am saying is that people will come out of the woodwork to claim that they met, so and so once upon a time and they had a gut feeling. So, we'll take this with a grain of salt. Nicole Bass, 34, spoke to New York Daily News about an encounter she says she had with Heuermann in her former life as a Craigslist worker. Bass recalls that Heuermann first wanted to meet her in a hotel room near Massapequa Park, where he lives, but she was uncomfortable with that idea. She asked to meet instead at a seafood restaurant called Steam Room in Port Jefferson. During their dinner, Brass remembers Heuermann seeming, quote, "totally normal," unquote, until he brought up the Gilgo Beach murders and his demeanor changed. Quote, "When he spoke, something about his body language changed and the look in his eyes changed, and it seemed like talking about the victims was enjoyable for him," end quote, Brass said. She said his tone while discussing the murders made her think he was, quote, "visualizing it in his head and getting off to what he was saying." Again, guys, end quote. I'm not saying that this didn't happen. I will give her the benefit of the doubt, but it does seem like this is colored a lot from, you know, hindsight being 2020. Look, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but take it with a grain of salt, okay? Quote, "The way he talked about it was really weird and gave me the worst gut feeling, so I was scared at the end of it," Brass said. "I didn't try to keep the dinner going long after that," end quote. She told Francis Donahue, a friend of her fiancé's, about the meeting years later. He also spoke to the news. Quote, "I remember a few years ago when I met her, she told me about that," Donahue said. "She was certain, and she even showed me a picture of him," he told the outlet. Okay, possibly it happened, but again, the sources may be a little bit sus, okay? Officials shed light on why Heuermann wasn't arrested outside his home. Authorities took Rex Heuermann into custody last week in Manhattan, a choice that took on new significance after the discovery of hundreds of firearms in his Long Island home. An interview with ABC News, Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney said the weapons were the deciding factor in law enforcement's decisions to arrest him elsewhere. Quote, "We wanted to take him into custody somewhere outside the house because of the access to those weapons," end quote, he said. Heuermann's wife likely did not know about his crimes. Court documents suggest that Rex Heuermann likely kept his actions from his family. Analysis of phone recordings showed that Heuermann's wife, Ellerup, look, y'all, I don't know. I'm trying to say this correctly, was out of town during the periods of 2009 and 2010 when Melissa Bartholomé, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello went missing. Though Heuermann is also the suspect, or a suspect, in the 2007 death of Maureen Baynard Barnes, phone records from that era are no longer accessible. In an interview with CNN, Suffolk Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison said Heuermann's family was stunned when they were told of his alleged crimes. Quote, "They were disgusted, they were embarrassed," he said. "So if you ask me, I don't believe they knew about this double life that Heuermann was living," end quote. Heuermann's family was reclusive, per neighbors. Residents in Rex Heuermann's neighborhood are starting to paint a picture of the suspect's life in Massapequa Park, where he lived with his wife. Why are okay. Asa Ellerup and their 2 children. Heuermann had been married to another woman in the 1990s. The New York Post reports that Heuermann's daughter Victoria is an employee at his architectural firm, though a page that included the company's staff has been scrubbed from the website. Not much is known about Heuermann's other child, a stepson whom the neighbor described to C- CBS News as having quote unquote special needs. Okay, I don't know why we need to know where she shopped unless it had good coupons, okay? But Ellerup shopped at the IGA grocery store with her children every week for decades. Heuermann never joined them. Mary Salamari, a store manager, told, okay, y'all, why are we going to their? This is the part of the tawdriness that, and again, I am like the worst person to be saying this because I'm reading this to you guys and I am definitely trying to monetize some of this, but really, their grocery store manager, this is news? All right. Told the New York Times that Ellerup generally looked depressed and the family often paid with food stamps. I guess I am confused. I mean, look, y'all, I don't know how much it costs to live in Long Island. By what John Gary and other people have told me, it is hella all the monies. It is all the monies in the world. Let's see if I can get we have the fat cat trying to get up on his it's hard to be a fluffy cat in a skinny cat world. It is. But, I'm not sure if maybe his architectural firm wasn't doing well if he didn't share any of that money. I mean, it must be costly to date many women of the night, unless you, like, get a frequent flyer discount. I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's a Groupon for that. Um, but again, and why are you gonna shade her and talk about her using food stamps? Like, her husband's already being, you know, It locked up for allegedly being a serial murderer. You think you could maybe let her have a, like, scotch of dignity and not talk about her having to use food stamps, which look, if you have to use them, if you need them, use them. Pull yourself up. Look, there have been times I'm just saying, things happen in your life. You take them, it's not a blow to your dignity, you get back up, and then you try to pay it forward, okay? But that's some cheap and tawdriness to me, if you ask me, talking about them having to use food stamps, which is the use of food stamps also seems at odds with Heuermann's career as an architect with a Midtown off Manhattan office. The family's neighborhood was described the family as solitary, rarely interacting with anyone on their block or having visitors to their home. I mean, it kind of sounds like me. Look, y'all, when I get home, when I leave my house, when I come back to my house, I just kind of want to be left alone. So, again, if I go missing, Farrell, you know what to do. You delete my search history and my Kindle, and we're good. The house they lived in was not well maintained, and one neighbor said Ellerup often looked like she just rolled out of bed. Again, with the petty. The woman's husband was probably a jerk royale. I mean, he was buying ladies of the night, bought one on a flippin', you know, Valentine's Day. It just I ugh. Okay, people, this is the stuff like, do we really need to be that place that kicks people when they're down? She's already gotta deal with a schmuck of a husband, a absolute S storm of everything, and now she's like, "She didn't even do her hairs." Okay? Stop with the pettiness. Investigators face a flood of evidence. Right now, we have a flood of information and a flood of evidence coming in, and it's going to take us a while to sort out or sort of go through all of that. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney told CNN on Monday. On Sunday and Monday, police searched and removed items from a storage unit that Rex Heuermann apparently rented at two facilities in Amityville. They also removed evidence from Heuermann's architectural firm offices in Midtown Manhattan over the weekend and have continued to confiscate items from his Long Island house. CNN reports that according to a source, the search of his house in Massapequa Park, quote, has largely been focused on forensics, but authorities are also looking for items that could be souvenirs from the killings, things that appear to be hidden or kept in such a way that other family members would not have come across them, end quote. Among items recovered from the Heuermann's residence, which Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison has described as a, quote, very cluttered home, were between 200 and 300 firearms, including pistols, revolvers, semi automatic rifles that Heuermann kept in a vault in his basement. Though he was apparently an avid hunter, he had legal permits for only 92 of the firearms. Quote, it's concerning regarding the guns being registered or legal or not. Garrison told Fox News on Monday, "That's the something we're still taking a look at. Anytime someone has that type of arsenal, we have some concerns." End quote. Again, it's America, and he can have as many weapons as he chooses to. I mean, well, until he like comes out as a serial killer, that kind of thing. But I do believe that a lot of courts using the oh gosh, don't quote me on Bruin decision, a lot of the, gun control sort of tests and, barriers that are being put in front of lawful gun ownerships are being contested. So, eh, look, this is more it's more concern his search history to me is more concerning than him having a lot of weapons. I mean, look, I'm not saying go to any place in rural Indiana. I don't think you'll find 200 to 300. But, if people don't have a gun safe out here, we are a little confused. It could happen. Police have also been seen removing what the New York Post describes as dozens of bizarre items from the home, including a child-sized fair haired doll kept in a large wooden glass case. Look, if you have an Annabelle doll, you keep that shit locked up. Look, if, what's their faces in the Conjuring movies, had to lock that shit up. Look, I'm just saying you got a creepy doll, you lock that shit in some glass and some wood, and then you have holy water and, some holy fire at the ready, and you have some smudge stick with sage, and you have a Catholic friend. Look, that is not all that creepy. Oh, well, the fact that you keep it is creepy to me, but look, people collect weird dolls. Look, I collect Sailor Moon dolls and oddly shaped children's mushroom toys that look distinctly peen-like, so not gonna judge them for their creepy dolls. After his arrest, the alleged killer reportedly asked, quote, "Is this in the news?" CNN reports that according to, quote, "a source familiar with the case," Heuermann only had one question during the intake at the jail being arrested last week, which is, quote, "Is this in the news?" The alleged serial killer, who is being held without bail, was put on suicide watch on the advice of medical staff after he was taken into jail. Again, that's why you see him in that lovely, Velcro turtle suit, because he definitely, you know, he would be one that they would probably want to keep on a psych watch. The alleged serial killer, who is being held without bail, was put on suicide sorry. Criminologist's 2011 profile of then unknown serial killer wasn't far off. The New York Times revisited what several experts and criminologists said in 2011 when the publication asked them to profile the person who had murdered the Gilgo Four. The women were probably killed by a white man in his mid-20s to mid-40s, they said. He is married or has a girlfriend. He is well educated and well spoken. He is financially secure, has a job, owns an expensive car or truck, lives or used to live where near to where the bodies were found. On Friday, sorry, details began to emerge about Rex Heuermann, who was arrested and charged with murder of the killings of the 3 of the women. And y'all, I'm sorry, but this profile, of course he is going to be well-spoken. Of course, he's not gonna be the creepy guy that everyone remembers. He's going to be, unassuming. I think we learned a lot from the Green River Killer, from Ted Bundy, and everything else. It's not the weird guy that kinda looks at you kinda like with the Mike Jensen eyes from under a rock. He's not the guy that you're pretty sure did it, looks like freaking Wild Bill Zielinski, who turned out to be a fairly normal guy when you got to talk to him, but if I'm doing, facial profiling in Walmart, I'm going down another aisle. So, that's kind of where I'm going with that. I mean, look, I'm not saying that profiling is wrong, I'm just saying this is what you would expect of a person who is able to get women who tend to, if you live in a high risk, you tend to, I would think, if you are not, under the influence of something, which some women in these particular high lifestyle or high risk lifestyles are, but you need to be able to get these women in a more compromised position. And in order to do that, you are not going to be the creepy weird guy. You are going to be able to talk to them, convince them that you're safe. So I feel like that's not, too much of I could have come up with this, you know, profile. I'm just saying I am looking to be hired. I will take, compensation in the form of all Sailor Moon memorabilia that Mr. Mo will not let me buy because it's expensive. On Friday, details began emerging about Rex Heuermann, who was arrested and charged with of the murder and the killings of the 3 women. Prosecutors said he was the prime suspect in the death of a 4th woman. Mr. Heuermann, 59, is a married white man who works as an architect in Manhattan and lives in Massapequa Park, about 15 miles away from Gilgo Beach. He owned a Chevrolet Avalanche truck at the time of the killings, prosecutors said. Now this right here, obviously you can't see, but the green with the Velcro, that is a turtle suit. You saw that on Daryl Brooks, I think at his first arraignment or whatever they call it in Wisconsin. Uh, but this is, so they can make sure he doesn't have anything that he can hurt himself with. A mugshot of the suspected killer was released by law enforcement following his Thursday arrest. A new mugshot of, quote, "a demon charged with 3 murders and prime suspect in the 4th." Yeah, I mean, he looks a lot like Shrek, I'm not gonna lie to you. I really do like this article. I didn't expect it to be this long, but I am, like, glad that they have put so much time into it because this answers a lot of questions, and this also does, kind of get a lot of information that I feel like I would have had to go to a bunch of different, kind of miscellaneous articles in, and it gave me a place to look for local information for some of the Phoenix and South Carolina stuff, so, Intelligencer, I mean, you guys have done a really good job, and we salute you at Mo in the Deep End. What Hierman's lawyer has said, defense attorney Michael Brown told reporters on Friday that after he was arrested, Hierman broke down in tears in front of his lawyers and said, quote, "I didn't do this," end quote. Brown has also released a statement to the media emphasizing his client's spotless record. Rex Heuermann is 59 years old with no prior criminal history. He is a college graduate and a hardworking licensed architect who has his own NYC firm. He is a loving husband to his wife of over 25 years, an involved, dedicated father to his daughter and stepson. He has entered a not guilty plea and has insisted he did not commit these crimes. There is nothing about Mr. Look, you guys, Call me old-fashioned, call me a person that just hates cheaters, but a loving husband and frequent user of the Craigslist women. No, just no. Like, you could say, look, he was an architect and, hey, I mean, he talked to women who on Tinder, as you do, but I'm sorry, this loving husband thing is I'm just saying. The facts are not in evidence, okay? He has entered a not guilty plea and has insisted he did not commit these crimes. There is nothing about Mr. Hierman that would suggest he's involved in these incidents. While the government has decided to focus on him despite more significant and stronger leads, we are looking forward to defending him in the court of law before a fair and impartial jury of his peers. Among the gawkers outside the suspect's house, Rudy Giuliani. Interesting. The former mayor swung by Rex Heuermann's residence in Massapequa Park on Saturday and reportedly asked one of the cops how close he could get to the house. His spokesman later told the New York Post that Giuliani was, quote, on the scene to cover this heinous crime as part of his hit new live stream show. Oh my God. Things that should never go together. Rudy Giuliani live stream show. But if he wants to come on my live stream, sir, I mean, I retract that. I am willing to totally have you on. We can talk about things. Uh, we can do Furry Friday if you'd like. It would be awesome, former mayor. Come on down to the Motown to mow in the deep end. Your people can call my people, who are me, and it'll be great. What about the other bodies? Although the cold case of the so-called Gilgo 4 now appears to have been solved, law enforcement officials on Friday shared no additional details about the status of the investigation regarding the 7 other people whose remains have been found around Gilgo Beach since 2010. There was also no indication that the investigators believe Heuermann was involved in those deaths. Instead, officials who spoke at Friday's press conference indicated only that their investigation into the other cases are still ongoing. Even with this arrest, we are not done. There's more work to do in this investigation regarding the other victims. Of the Gilgo Beach bodies that were discovered, end quote, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison said he urged anyone with information to call 1-800-220-TIPS, the county's Crime Stoppers hotline. Suffolk County DA. This case is not over. At a press conference regarding the arrest, Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney vowed that this case against Tierman was, quote, only beginning, end quote, and that we are continuing to execute search warrants and we anticipate getting more evidence. Tierney also thanked various law enforcement partners in the task force that ultimately cracked the case, mentioning in particular how they continued to keep details of the investigation secret because they knew the suspect killer was himself closely following news about the case. Quote, we knew that this one person would be watching, and we didn't want to give him any insight into what we were doing, Tierney said. We also didn't want him to know just how close we were getting, end quote. In his comments on the arrest, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison emphasized that, quote, Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families. If not for members of this task force, he would still be out on the streets today, end quote. Now, this is where I did wonder if perhaps the defense could be using this as showing DA and sort of state involvement in tainting a jury. Now, if I were a smart DA and I knew this was going to be a giant case, I think I would have had everyone tell me exactly what their statements were going to be so that we would have none of this shenanigans. Not that I disagree with this man at any point. If Rex Heuermann turns out to be, you know, found guilty, but it does put the sort of stain of having the state-backed kind of guilty until proven innocent sort of tarnish. Now, again, they're humans, they're people, if this just shot out of his mouth, it happens, but what I don't want is for this to be used if evidence can be shown that, this man is conclusively the guy, like, beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't want this to make it any more difficult for these families to get this justice. This is a video obtained by NBC New York that shows the moments before the man accused of the murders of 3 Gilgo Beach victim was taken into custody by law enforcement. So again, they did, take him into custody, uh, sort of in his, Manhattan office area because of the amount of weapons that they knew about, and then, thank goodness, all the other weapons they didn't. Uh But I am glad that, they are at least trying to do this by the books. Again, we are going through and I am going to have to actually finish the rest of this article a little bit later. I do have to take my oldest to work. So I will upload this and then we will do a part 2 because I didn't realize how long I had been just jabbering. So I will come back to this part and hopefully finish the end of this article because it only looks about halfway done. And then you will have a two-parter, and you can just listen to me in the background. So I will see you right back. I will be taking my oldest to her work, and then we will be